Hello and welcome back to The Roottrees Are Dead. Today we'll start on the expansion called the Roottreemania. This takes place after the whole of the main game content is complete, so if you're not caught up on that, hop on back to my channel and watch the original series. But if you're already all caught up, let's see what dirty secrets this family is hiding this time. Who's barging in today?
Hi, I'm Clark. Probably not who you expected to be knocking, but life's funny sometimes. You've done well staying anonymous. It took us a while to track you down. A lot has happened in the last year. Far too much of it public. But there's stuff going on behind the scenes too. I never wanted to be president. I'm not great with stress, and with my mother's deteriorating I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because part of the fallout of Sam's book is that everyone's coming out of the woodwork. Now that it's public knowledge the Clancet Trust covers any Roottree despite their history with us, a lot of potential cousins have surfaced. You may have seen that man on the cover of News Time. That was a disaster for us. And then Miracle went and made it all about himself. The long and short of it is a lot of potential cousins just showed up. Sam's helping some of them, but she's not really going about it the right way. And she's not taking calls from anyone in the family. I let it slip through a mutual friend that I found you, and I was stopping in. It's manipulative, but I'm hoping she'll reach out to you. You can let her know I'm on her side. In the meantime, if you're willing, I can share our files with you. Pass them along to Sam if she reaches out. I'm genuinely hoping she'll realize I'm an ally. Feel free to do your own research. I've been told you enjoy things like this. To each their own.
Stop judging me. Okay, well, we still have our original tree, but here's our new family tree that we have to work through for this expansion. It appears to be based on various infidelities in the family. So we have one dating back to 1921, then another one in 1949. Then someone really went out and had multiple affairs over the span of the years between 1975 and 1982. But at the end, we actually get a legitimate child in the family that we can enter as well. Now, the green marked place cards are for the people from the original tree, so the family members we already know about. But everything blue will be new people we knew nothing about. We have one notable person to start us off with. Now, an interesting thing is that the name entry is now based on a first name, last name selection. Therefore, we can no longer do that thing we were doing in the main game where you can possibly find out someone's first name and then, because they're the only one available or we already eliminated any duplicates, we know who they were. Now we actually have to properly find their whole name. We are still on 4 relatives needed to lock in rules. And there is also a top secret envelope that we'll be doing at the end. This time it is not connected to any of the rest of the tree here, so the only thing we can deduce about it is that it will be people who fit into this generation down here, but we're not going to be connected to the main content we're working on. So the person visiting us now is Clark, of his fame of marrying 2 sisters one after each other. So he clearly knows plenty about infidelities. So possible he's one of the people here, just having some extra children as well. But yeah, let's see what he brought us and where we need to start digging. So we have notable events start here with a value of 11, so that should give us plenty to research and plenty to discover from. So we have 6 pieces, the Roottree Rift, Clark Rafferty-LaRoux, 5 Ps with a star, so that might be the notable person we're looking for, Roottreemania, which is the name of this expansion, and Anonymum. So today is August 3rd, 1999. It's been 8 months since you helped Sam with the research necessary for her book. She paid you a huge amount of money, so we don't really need to do this, like we're set, but we just enjoy it, so we will do it. So the family tracked me down, even though she never revealed my name. And they give us a summary of what happened in between. So 6 pieces is Sam's book about Elias. The Roottree Rift. In March, the Roottree company stumbled publicly as they attempted to respond to the book's release with multiple conflicting press releases and a clear lack of leadership. We should probably be just taking all of this as highlights and for our research. We have Clark Rafferty-LaRoux, who is now the new president, and Sam is officially in the family. And now there's now an outside legal group handling the trust, which includes any new questions of lineage. We have 5 Ps. There was a rash of different people claiming to be Roottrees, mostly dismissed as opportunists and scammers. The highest profile of this, and by wide margin, was a rapper named Felix Fellowers, who changed his moniker to 5 Ps as a publicity move at the same time. 5 Ps is the only notable person on the updated tree. Okay, so he is actually confirmed on the tree, so he will be a valuable research piece. We have Roottreemania, another high-profile misstep. Miracle Roottree publicly denied that 5 Ps was at Roottree. Well, Miracle, you were wrong. The Roottree legal team then offered to do a DNA test to get 5 Ps to drop his claim, and it turned out that he was truly a Roottree, and suddenly the world was obsessed with the Rootrees. Then we have Anonymum and Jane Doe Roottree. In July, an anonymous woman appeared in interviews with her face and voice disguised to claim that an affair with Roottree led to a birth of her daughter, named Jane Doe Roottree. If true, this would make her daughter yet another secret Roottree and therefore entitled to a share of clan's trust. Nobody knew it at the time, but this would turn out to be the last chapter in the Roottreemania saga. As more and more of Anonymous' story came out, people began to notice how much it echoed 5 Ps in nearly every significant way. The court of public opinion began to turn, confirming world suspicions. The DNA test proved that her daughter was not a Roottree. This final event caused public disappointment, smugness from doubters, and countless accusations of the entire ordeal being an elaborate hoax or attempt at fraud. Things got big ugly, and the fun of Roottreemania seemed to disappear overnight. Now, 2 months later, it feels like a distant memory. Obviously, if we're saying if you're a member of this family, you're set for life because there's money, then some people might be making claims that they shouldn't be making. But one of the other people was confirmed. So we have preview 3 on the Rootrees. This is also a value of 8. Some web searches may yield new or different results, and some books and magazines from your previous investigation might be relevant to your new one. It's also a much more widespread search. The list of names will contain red herrings, so not just we have to actually find the names there, also some of them are just not useful at all. Now we not only have all this new content, but yeah, some of the old content might still be relevant, so there will be a lot of things to search. Pin it all to research, even if it's again. So yeah, we have the Roottree County Company, Butler County. I don't think we need to research it, unless we want to find out once again about the Flutnies are bred. Elias, Carl, and Rihanna, so we have Lauren, Miracle, who's definitely gonna be a new search because he's already gotten into the new situation. Lauren's diaries, we already have them, so probably don't need to search them again, we can get the old stuff. 5 presidents, so now we're up to 6 presidents. We have Caroline, Stephanie, Brian. So actually Stephanie was pregnant in the original game, so the one legitimate child might be her child. Yeah, many of the younger Rootrees were found exploring a complex rabbit hole for a conspiracy site that lets us find Chris Rafferty. Let's see if there's anything new about him. And yeah, let's see if there will be any new conspiracies as well. November. Yes, we struggle with that one. Even though I eventually guessed it through linked information, I did also find the confirmation we did to find. We have Ron and Robbie, who worked in TV, but then Robbie got into some illegal situation with embezzling. And that's kind of what sealed the situation of like people cannot be removed from Clan's trust, that as long as their family, the money is theirs, which I guess that's where like we get to Sam gets the money and then anyone else confirmed here will be getting the money. Sam and her father were cryptically mentioned in a book about historical letters. Yes, spicy letters. Or what was it? Oh, a steamy correspondence, that's what it was called. There were some dead ends and red herrings. Yeah, the guy called Herring. And this is just a recap of what just happened. And then Clark left us and Sam a note. The company I hired to help us with the clan's trust is busy pouring through the entire family's history, as well as people they may have had contact with. That said, the family is not particularly happy with this and are doing their best to slow things down. Many of them are actively avoiding our interviews. Every time there's a high-profile public case, it causes headaches, so please, I don't mind if you do your research, but I ask that you stop going to the press. Instead, we have a highly trained team of lawyers to back you up. We're ready and willing to verify anyone and everyone you believe could be a realistic part of the relationship that led to the birth of a new Roottrie. Just tell us who to investigate by filling the news section of the tree, and we'll take the time to handle verifying that the timeline checks out. But keep in mind why we're here. If someone didn't have a child or has already been disqualified by our lawyers, like the case of the girl with the negative DNA test, there won't be a place for them on the tree. We're not just looking for affairs and infidelities, we're only looking for the ones that led to potential new Rootrees. Some spots in the new sections will be marked with a tree icon. Yeah, okay, so I already looked at that. And yet, remember to use birth names, because the married names and nicknames don't count. To start sorting out the infidelities, I recommend you turn your eyes to the men in positions of power. I'd love to say that's only because it would have been a lot harder for a woman to hide 9 months of pregnancy and birth without the family noticing, but I can't. I'll be blunt, I'm no stranger to infidelity. I wish I could claim that I was perfect husband, but you've seen the family tree, so why pretend? Well, good on you to at least admit it. Some of us learned how to wield our family name and fortune to our benefit. Consequences be damned. I can't change the past or unhurt those who I betrayed. Instead, all I can do is be honest with myself and to you. Refuse to make any more mistakes and do best to sort out the various messes we've left behind. So please, fill in the tree, and together we can figure out how to begin to make amends. Good luck and thank you both, Clark. Yeah, Clark. Is this you? This you? Or was it someone else? Well, if we're saying it was men in positions of power, obviously the presidents are quite possible. 1921 is quite early on. It's quite possible all the way up here, because I'm not sure any of them would have been born and old enough already for such things. Like, I know like he had some quite early in his life. We filled 2 pages of pinning. I'm sort of like, I think this one is just Stephanie having her baby, so that might be an easy one to just get in and log in before we get into all of the sneakier things. We're already printing, so good. So Brian's been updating Stephanie's website, and yes, there is now a baby photo. And their daughter was named after her grandmother, which was a very thing considering she was born the night before Christmas. And it's what's next, and this talks about her career, and just that she will be using this publicity to accomplish bigger things. Let's just check that there wasn't anything in the local paper about her as well. Yes, so this page hasn't been updated for 8 months, so it's just telling us this is just the information you would have found in the original game, so unless you need it for something, don't bother with it. Okay, well, let's just check them out. There are new pictures for them and a picture for the baby. Now, the baby's grandmother is Caroline. I assume it means her maternal grandmother because we don't know about Brian's family. I think we knew about his father, that he had the printing business before him. That could be Caroline, although I'm not sure how is that a Christmas name? Just because carols are like Christmas thing. But anyway, we can put Stephanie here. Landon was her name. And she's a politician. And this is Brian. And we also have a new picture for him. And the baby. Yes, there's a Carol as an option. So that would make it both possible. Similar name to Caroline and Carol Christmas. So I think we can put that on. And that puts... her surname is Jones from her father, and she's a baby. Okay, so that's 3 that are potentially ready to confirm, and now we just need to find a 4th person to enter here, whoever that they may be. Well, I guess we'll start from the top. We have 6 pieces. Interestingly enough, there's a version that's older than what we're looking at, even though this book is quite recent, so let's have a look. Okay, so that just says it's an upcoming book by Sam Madsen. There are no details, so that would... I guess we could have looked it up in the original game, and that's all we have gotten. Okay, so this is the full title. Book by Sam Madsen. It was released 1999. And because of the plane crash, yes, it got very popular. Reviews were mixed. Most reviewers agree that the core of the book about Samantha's father and the struggles they faced was compelling, and that the techno of hypocrisy of Elias Roottrees was deserved. However, many took umbrage with the timing of the release and the tone of the book, which seemed vindictive. Yes, like, obviously she didn't start writing the book after the plane crash, it just so happened to coincide with it. The fallout from the book led to the Roottree company scrambling to release a statement, and due to a conflict of leadership, famously released multiple conflicting official statements over 3 days. This confusing move was referenced in popular culture due to a late-night sketch about indecisionitis, but more traditional analysts have been calling it the Roottree Rift. That's already pinned. Due to Roottreemania, the book re-entered the charts and sold even better than first time. Okay, I assume this will just lead to some silly things, so... It was a disease coined by a popular sketch show as part of a fake pharmaceutical advertisement for Jit Together. While the segment isn't fully about the Roottree Candy Company, it was released in the weeks after the bizarre response to the release of 6 pieces. The woman orders a number 5 in the drive-thru, then changes it to number 3. This causes lengthy backup and annoyance. As she pulls away, the same woman then barges into the restaurant and past the card line, loudly complaining that she didn't receive her number 5. After this, the sketch transitions from a restaurant scene into a pharmaceutical commercial. A doctor claims that the woman was suffering from indecisionitis, a disease that causes extreme confusion and irritability, and hence recently been found to severely hinder the leaders of large corporations, and could also spread to humans. Yes, leaders of large corporations are not humans. The doctors that recommend Jit Together, a fake pharmaceutical drug, use a catchphrase: when I can't make tough decisions, I gotta get my Jit together. The final testimonial included a bald man in silhouette with voice changer saying, I'm not comfortable sharing who I am, but I am comfortable saying that before I took over my family's candy company, I really should have gotten my Jit together. Just a silly thing. Wow, so we can go into the library and we can get the book, hopefully. It was released earlier this year. All the details, we helped verify the story, so we should be familiar. That said, Sam had subsections on other family secrets and rumors. Much of it didn't matter to the primary purpose of the book, and some of it's new to you and may be important to your new search. the sections have been added to your notes. Good, so we don't have to like slog through the whole thing again. Here's the book, also valuable, and this is gonna be from 6 pieces. Yeah, so it's about Sam's history with the company and the rumors and the gossip she collected during that tenure. She ran the farm for a period starting around 1968, after the death of Elias Roottrees, until her daughter Gwyneth took over in 1984. Most of the relevant rumors coincide with the reign of Guy Hudson, who took over as president in 1978. Sam was very much not a fan of Guy, and according to 6 pieces, it was an open secret within the family that Guy was very much not a fan of remaining faithful to his wife Patricia. Okay, so he actually might be the guy with the many affairs then. Many of their hires at the time were young, single women, and Guy often spent a lavish amount of money on private parties. This was 20 years ago, and Sam warns that most of it is hearsay. Still, you find the following information that might be relevant. One of Sam's farm supervisors was named Elizabeth. Elizabeth had a daughter who Sam never met, but who worked as one of the guy's secretaries. According to Elizabeth, a caterer from a local restaurant called Antonelli's met her daughter at one of the guy's parties, and they eloped quickly due to a pregnancy. Elizabeth wasn't aware that the party was for swingers. Rumor has it that her daughter showed up with Guy and didn't seem comfortable switching partners. Okay, it was, the 70s? I heard those were popular things to do at the time. I'm not that old, I have no idea. Guy's main positive contribution to the company involved expanding to markets previously untapped by Roottrees. However, when he went to trips overseas, they were often for weeks at a time, and Guy was known for spending more time and money on unofficial business than meetings with distributors and manufacturers. It was said that he bribed at least one politician to open a factory in Brazil. There's also a section where Sam speculates that Elias may have also cheated on Gwyneth. Gwyneth was always much kinder to Sam than Elias was, and was the first to invite Sam to the family events. While she had no hard evidence, Sam always got the impression that Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias into allowing Sam back into the family using some kind of leverage, instead of it being a natural course of events. She mentioned that Elias and Gwyneth were now known to loudly argue, sometimes about another woman. Sam also says her son Ernie once asked her who's Beth, because he overheard them yelling about someone with that name. As far as Sam knows, Elias once had a secretary named Elizabeth, different Elizabeth than the one that worked on the farm, but she never met her. There's only one summary page. There isn't multiple things to read here. Where are we at? Okay, so there are 3 press releases from the Roottrees Candy Company after the 6 pieces book released, and it's called the Roottree Rift due to the clear conflict between them. The first was fairly standard. It stated there was no precedent, but the entire family was made aware of the book and they would be meeting as soon as possible. Only then could verify the legitimacy of the claims it raised and decide next steps. The second release was emailed to business newspapers 3 hours later and announced that after a vote, Ron Roottree would be taking over temporarily as an interim president. It also went on to state that Ron was aware of the book, had verified the claims within, and would look into compensating Mrs. Madsen and her family immediately. It also stated that the company lawyers would be taking immediate steps with the family to revisit the clan's trust terms to make sure nothing like this could happen again. It was quickly clear to business reporters and analysts that the time between the 2 press releases would not have been logistically sufficient to gather a majority of the family, even using conference calls. This was reported on many news channels, and a third, much shorter press release came the next day. It claimed that a draft of the announcement was made prematurely, and that Clark Rafferty-LaRoux and Ron Roottree would be taking over as the company's first joint presidents. It also stated that any compensation plan would be based on stringent verification process. We looked at the riff online, but it might be also in some periodicals, maybe. Okay, so there was something in Business Watch. What really happened with Roottree? Mentions that nobody from Roottree they reached out was willing to go on record. Instead, the timeline of events has been constructed from public record, accidental leaks, and a source on the inside. The only parts that are new to you are almost vague parts, the ones supposedly confirmed by their anonymous source. The timeline says that the family actually had a preliminary vote after Carl Roottrie died, but before the release of Six Pieces, and decided they wanted Ron to take over because of his experience running RR Productions and because he was well known and well respected Roottree. But Ron seemed way too eager and personally motivated. They were worried he would get the clan's trust to remove Robbie. The family was notoriously unwilling to do anything that could risk their wealth. They stalled and Ron became frustrated with the delay, and then Six Pieces came out. He saw his chance to force action while the family was in the limelight and released the press release himself in an attempt to get the ball rolling faster. This caused chaos within the family. They tried to save face by allowing Ron to take over as co-president with Clark, but according to Business Watch source, Ron was impossible to deal with. He seemed like he was unwilling to protect the clan's trust, and they eventually let him go. After that, the role passed slowly to Clark, who nobody was excited about, but seemed like a safest choice. Poor Clark. Yeah, so Ron is just like, oh yeah, my brother sucks, so can we remove him? But obviously, if you set the precedent for removing people, then everyone is at risk. Now we can look up Clark online or in the periodicals. This is also an older page. Oh no, this is newer page. The older one was just she was doing music with Jim for a bit. Yeah, so he's the new president. But Root has its own leadership instead. So in March of 1989, it was announced that he was president with Ron. This was described as a transitional period after the Six Pieces. And after that, Ron was let go. Yeah, most of the information we know already. Focused on his advertising career and his mother, Lauren. Few seem to touch on his complex and volatile marital history. Oh, we know all about his marital history. Since taking over, Clark has tried to remain out of the spotlight, but did have one notable foray into public eye. He gained a lot of support when his first move was a statement in favor of accepting Sam and her family into the trust. This also served as an announcement that the clan's trust would no longer be handled by anyone in the family, since due to their financial motivation, none of them could ever be impartial. Now, they don't get to kick people out however they please. Do we need to look him up in the periodicals? Okay, we have Clark as well as Ruby Spratt and her company Ruby Legal Enterprises were featured in Business Watch after they took over as the keepers of clan's trust. Okay, so they're now in charge of that. There's an article about that process that interviews both Clark and Ruby. Seems that Ruby actually approached the Roottrees sometime in the late March after the Rift, but well before Roottreemania. As an accomplished but relatively low-profile lawyer, she offered to work for very little money, so long as she could be public face to build her reputation. The family quickly jumped on this chance, as many family members often attempt to spend as little as possible to keep their shares of the clan's trust as high as possible. Such greedy people. You would think, still, it's a company, right? Like, they must have lawyers. You can't run a giant corporation without lots of legal requirements, but, I mean, maybe that's why they're in trouble so much, because they just skimp on everything. After looking over the clan's trust more carefully than anyone had in years, Ruby came to the conclusion that Clancy Edward Rootree's implementation was not legally sound, and there would be constant legal challenges without some modifications. The family decided to put her in charge of the trust, both legally and as a public face, to prevent further issues. Ruby Legal Enterprises has been described as a mix between a law firm and a PR firm. Her first move, as a sort of a trial run before she was even hired permanently, was to help them draft a public statement accepting Sam into the family and declaring that they began to address the clan's trust. This went quite well, and they officially hired her in early April. Ruby Legal is now in charge of many financial aspects of the company, including verifying any claims to the trust, and organizing the various charitable causes such as scholarships that have been set up in the name of the deceased. Okay, anything about him in the local press? No. And the other ones don't seem relevant. He's unlikely to be in Teen Blast. I don't think teens are gonna be that interested. Okay, so now we have this guy called 5Ps. which is the guy that's supposed to be confirmed. So his name's Felix. I think we already have that pinned here, but maybe we want to move it to his own page. It's a rapper who found some recent radio play after being public confirmed as the longest Roottrie and entitled to part of their fortune. Yes, 5 pieces that play on 5 pieces. An article you found on a website known for their particularly harsh reviews of modern music gives his most recent album, Root of All Evil, 1 star out of 7, for whatever reason, with the headline, "More poser than my action figure collection." The review mentions his real name is David, and he used to go by Dirty Davy. And the author rules the fact that his rebranding was a blatant marketing stunt at the expense of his mother's tragic past. She overdosed when he was 16. Apparently only one of the songs on the album is new, and the others were simply rewritten to turn blatant references to sex and drugs and violence into clumsy euphemisms. His rise to prominence was kickstarted when he appeared a few months ago on the cover of Newstime, holding a photo of his mother with Guy Hudson. He's gonna be the one then. At first the Roottree company denied it, and Miracle Roottree even appeared on the same magazine a week later. Okay, so we have to look up them both in there. But since they've backtracked publicly and welcome to the family, their press release at the time stated that they had new evidence that confirmed his story. Okay, well, let's look up his album. It's his debut album. Mostly material that he's recorded from his mixtapes before he became notable, but re-recorded with differences and professional production. All Your Problems was the first single released. After dropping the single, he announced that he retained an infamous celebrity lawyer, Steve Whitlock, to sue his family. To date, it doesn't seem like he's followed through. At first, the single didn't make much of a splash, but Whitlock, known for publicity stunts, paid thousands of teenagers a few dollars an hour to call and request a video on MTV, which increased its profile. MTV eventually caught on and banned the video altogether, which in turn received national news coverage and made the song even more popular. But his name is David, Dirty Davy. According to fan sites, Felix Fellowers is not 5P's actual name. His birth name is David Fellowers. Okay. And Dirty Davy was his previous stage name. He used to sell records and perform live shows in Portland under that name. There were some people selling his old mixtapes on auction sites. One is apparently called Dirty Devil and another Dirt Poor. Yes, so Dirty Devil was his first mixtape from the early 90s. There's discrepancies and debates about what year exactly it was released based on some of the pop culture references, within the range thought to be somewhere between 1992 and 94. One of the songs, Yes I Can Jump, seems to be at the center of the confusion. Some fans have claimed that there are multiple versions with different track lists and songs length on them, though because there's very little evidence of the mixtape online as it is, it's even harder to verify that information. Yes, internet, who knows if they're lying or not. Yes I Can Jump was a song on a 5-piece mixtape. It's the only song that didn't make it to his studio album that people thought should have. He references a popular movie from 1992 called White Men Can't Jump. This reference has caused some confusion among the fan base. Because of it, it's agreed upon that the mixtape had to come out in 1992 at the earliest, but others point out that Fellowers references seeing the movie on his 17th birthday, which would have been in 1994. Some take this to mean that the album had been released in 1994 at the earliest. Others claim that he was likely just trying to make himself sound older, since in response to some of the more questionable lyrics, he has stated multiple times that he was just a dumb kid when it was released. Okay, I guess so that kind of narrows it to like, when was he born? Because you can then reference it against like, who could have been his parents. Like, Guy Hudson died when he was quite young, or like, you know, he was not old, so it's like, oh, does it match? So if it's between 1982 and 1994 that he's 17, so he would have been born between 1975 and 1977, something like that, which fits here quite well. And actually, this tree only has one notable person, And it says that the 5-piece is a notable person. So we could put him here and he should immediately... Oh no, he's not gonna confirm because we don't have a picture for him. But we know his name is David and followers. Yeah. And I guess he's a musician. So we can put that there. And there's also Dirt Poor. Okay, so that was a mixtape from 1996. There's a lot of discussion. I'd like to point out that in one of the songs, it included someone that would be revealed to be his own distant cousin, Raina, in a list of attractive women. The lyrics of one of the songs, Heat, mentions a few different prominent female actresses, models, and musicians from the 90s, and provides a crude pun or line about what followers felt about them. When re-released in 1999, much of the rhetoric was toned down to be less overtly profane, and the line referencing Raina was clumsily replaced with Dana, a reference to the character from The X-Files. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone in the 90s thought Dana was hot, and actually Gillian Anderson is still very hot to this day. Okay, so we have audio problems, and we got some printing. This is a track. That's the new song of the album. Is the about hypocrisy of those that claim money is evil. He points out that the people who think money is evil are those that have it, those they can afford not to be greedy. In the song 5-piece triumphantly talks about taking the Rootrees' wealth to do it being his birthright and giving it to those who need it most. Himself? Is he the one that needs it most? You find a copy of the song on a suspicious looking website and download it for your records. Don't download suspicious thing on the internet. So we have the News Time, which might be a new periodical. A few issues every week. Yes, the 5-piece appeared on the cover. Then 1 week later, Miracle did the same, denying that 5-piece was related. Per source of this high-profile back-to-back discourse right before the start of Roottreemania, they appear to be de facto publication to get news about the ongoing Roottrie saga. They reported record subscriber numbers during this time, which lasted until the end of Roottreemania, when the world generally stopped paying much attention, and they went back to reporting on more traditional news. We now have it in here, so we can search up. It gets 5-piece. We get printing, so yeah, he appeared on the cover. And then Miracle, okay, so we get both articles in one go. And then who's this Stevie Whitlock person? Is a lawyer with history of publicity stunts and grandstanding. Still, she managed to rack up quite a few legal victories for silly celebrities and athletes. She became famous in the mid-1980s after successfully suing a multinational sandwich company whose 12-inch subs were actually an average of 11.5 inches long. Who could have that been? Any brands come to mind? Stevie argued that since the company sold 1 billion sandwiches per year, there was enough missing sandwich to make a sub long enough to span from New York to Los Angeles. The jury awarded her a paltry $5,000, but the news coverage of her crusade turned out to be priceless. Unfortunately, none of them seems related to the Rootrees. No, it seems like another funny thing. Okay, so the value of notable events dropped to 1. It seems like we found almost everything, and I guess once we lock in 5-piece, that should probably be all we need. Okay, so now we have his picture here. Yeah, so we're saying his mother and Guy Hudson. Okay, his mother name was Joanna, and she was Zach's secretary, so he was the previous president. But then Guy took over, and she was his secretary for 2 weeks after, and then she quit. His parents divorced when he was 4. I assume that's his original, like, whoever his mother was married to. And after his father learned of the affair, then they moved to Portland because she was afraid for her and Sanderson's life. He grew up with her until he was 16, but one day his mother never came home from the movie rental store where she worked at the register. Okay, that will be important to finding her job. They found her dead from an overdose in her car. She had stolen all the cash from her drawer and spent it on... As Felix went through her belongings, the only things he had to remember her by were a hairbrush she always used, some photos, and a stuffed animal from her childhood. But then he found it. A box still in the back of her closet. Inside were love letters and photos related to Guy Hudson. as well as a letter from his father containing threats. He threw it all away, with the exception of the one photo he appears on the cover of Newstime. He says it was the only one where they were dressed. Yeah, just the picture you want to find of your parents. The only one not from the affair itself. There's also additional details about 5P's career. He was born Felix, followers to Riley and Joanna. He was born Felix? I thought he was born David. Wasn't that the whole thing we just looked into? I guess we'll find out once we try to confirm it. He tried to find success by opening for other artists and even by selling CDs on street corners in Portland. He only recently started going as 5Ps to harness the power of his lineage. The writer did some research into the truth of these claims and was able to confirm that Joanna did work for the Roottree company as a secretary, sometimes during the early mid 70s. It also confirmed she died of a drug overdose and that Felix went into foster care soon after. They were unable to track down his father. They reached out to the Roottree company, but the moment the company's blanket statement was, since the release of the recent book, Roottree has seen an overwhelming number of false ancestral claims. None have been factual and nearly all have been knowingly dishonest. We encourage individuals to reach out to us in an official capacity as opposed to attempting to use our name in the media for publicity. So we have his album. Again, we're not gonna play this song, but yes, this is the Root of Our Evil single. Didn't make a big splash. Still, it's kind of catchy. There are all the words. Interesting, this time it doesn't mention that the lyrics don't have any clues, but this has no value, so I'm gonna go with there's nothing hidden here. And we have Guy Hudson, and that must be the mother, Joanna. Yeah. And we also have Miracle. Now, what's interesting is that we get a new picture of Miracle. Actually, no, there are alternative photos on the original tree, so there's more things we can add. But there is not a spot for an alternative picture of Miracle. So it might be a red herring, or he might fit somewhere. He might fit somewhere on the board. So yeah, he denies that 5Ps was a Roottrie. This article was before the DNA test proved it. He doesn't focus much on the details of the accusation. Instead, he comes across as exhausted at the events that have been going on behind the scenes, as well as the character of those he feels are attacking his family. He started with 6 pieces content. He says that although the book was based in fact, it left out anything that wouldn't fit the agenda. He points out that Sam's daughter still earns a generous salary for overseeing the farm division of Roottrie, and that Sam did the same before her. That Sam's family was not destitute, and that really it was on her son who chose to take on a job with no salary. Because her son was Ernie Jr., who became one of the company presidents, but you don't really get paid for that job, because it expected that you get money from the trust, but they weren't getting the trust. He claims that though they didn't have to, the family helped pay for her son's medical bills after voting that it was the right thing to do. Pretty sure there was like a whole thing about that they weren't doing it, and Carl had to like strong arm him into it. Merrick also says that the story about his father Elias shunning EC was one-sided, leaving out Edward Clancy's blame in the whole thing. Elias gave him a simple ultimatum: stop sinning or be disarmed. Now, stop sinning in this case means stop being gay. Merrick says it was EC's own choice, and that Elias allowing him to earn food and shelter on the company's dime was a kindness, especially considering that he and John continued to live together. Merkel then pivots the fallout from 6 pieces. He recounts a deluge of claims to the clan's trust that the family have been subject to. He doesn't cite any specifics, but says that every time someone comes forward, the family devolves into arguments. They had to hire an outside legal team to help, but so far every case has been demonstrably laughably false. All they do is tarnish his family reputation. He focuses on 5Ps who appeared on Newstime before him. He calls him a grifter and a delinquent, and says he's using their name and products to sell filth to the masses. Of all the accusations, he says this is the most dangerous because it exposes the world to hatred. He cites 5Ps lyrics as violent, sexist, and ungodly, and prays the boy will repent, retract his lies, and find religion. Lastly, he turns to the future. Miracle states that those that wish to hear the true story can join him on his farewell tour and the upcoming fall. The Miracle Roottree are planning on touring the country churches one last time. And now that at age 71, Miracle is the oldest living Roottree, while he plans to continue preaching at his own church in Butler County. After the tour, this is your last chance to hear the truth from the man with the most complete recollection of one of America's most notable families in their hometown. The article mentions that Miracle's son, Miracle Jr., did not wish to comment, and has a statement from Clark Rafferty-LaRoux through the law firm. Miracle does not speak for the entire family. We're working carefully on a plan to definitively disprove any claims of infidelity in our family's past. The article also does not refute Miracle's claim that he's the oldest living Roottree, despite Sam Madsen being born a year before him. It was unclear if Miracle made the claim out of ignorance or spite. Okay, well, this has a value of 1, so there's something here. But again, that might just be the 5-piece situation, because we don't have him logged in. We will do it in a minute. Now, the only thing other than that I read into it is that Miracle seems very adamant that all accusations of infidelity are false. But yeah, again, with there being a picture and no room for alternate picture, sounding very suspicious right there, my man. What we know now is that this was likely Elias. This might have been Miracle then. I mean, it may have. It just sounds very suspicious. Like he's the one that just races to be like, oh, no affairs, everyone's lying. And then he's promoting his tour as well. Like, that may have been his main motivation as well. And I guess 5-piece goes here with this picture. And this is Guy Hudson, and that's Joanna. Now, yeah, we know that she's Joanna, but the surname is from her husband. So we still will have to find out what her actual maiden name was. But we can add him here. And she was cashier, and like literally just before she died, because she was a secretary when she met Guy, but then she worked as a cashier. And this will be 5-piece with the big. Now I'm kind of in the original game. I've really made it my life hard because I've confirmed everything that was easy, and then I was stuck with the people that were like the hardest to do anything about. So I know I have 3 here. So I'm sort of just being really careful about who I put in fully now. Using the situation wisely. So he was the 3rd president. So I'm thinking, this was Elias, Roottree, president the 1st, and someone called Elizabeth. So we don't have a surname for, and that she was a secretary for him, which we got from reading one of the things. This was Guy Hudson. We could actually just straight up find out if this was Miracle, because we have 3 assuming the baby's name is correct. So it should confirm if we put all of his details here. He's not a public speaker, he's a preacher. Okay, well, that means it's either not Miracle or this baby's not called Carol. Okay, well, I guess we can put either picture of Guy Hudson or 5-piece and see if that takes us anywhere. Yes. It was Miracle. Yep. He dirty. He was just like right out there. No affairs. Everyone's lying, trying to protect himself. And the baby's correct. Oh, yes, I was being silly. Because I've had Brian, but Brian is not a main character, so he wasn't counting. This expansion is large. This was just me getting through the little bits and pieces of like the information we were given just at the start. And yeah, we've basically got 4 locked in, and there is still tons of stuff I got pinned from just that I still need to get into. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, it's just gonna be a quick one. We're gonna do an episode and be done with it. But no, there's gonna be multiple probably episodes to get through all of this, even if I edit out a lot of me waffling. So with that in mind, I will see you soon on another adventure.